where I left off. Maybe I'll do a quick summary here, but of what I've been talking. I've been talking away here, and then I looked up and saw all your comments, so my apologies for not seeing those earlier. I would have been better off for that. So I built this label here. Hopefully you've at least been watching. And in this label style, I have used a reference text component to get a station and offset. And I was going over how it's important when you're using this label to be watching the command line. So if I add another one in here, you'll see that first it's going to ask me to select a surface. Now it's asking me the point to label, and it initially comes in with question marks because it doesn't know which alignment to be specifying yet. So say I had specified this same alignment as before. Now I have 0 plus 13, as you can see here. Maybe I added this in incorrectly, or I wanted to change. Maybe the engineer changed their mind and I want to change this label. If I go to my properties here, you can see at the top my reference text object. I could change that then to be the west road as opposed to this road, which would be the north road. And that'll update right there. Now it's clearly reflecting that stationing along the other line. Is this all good? Can you hear? Is it coming through? Hopefully we don't have that issue anymore. Okay. Much better. Good. Okay. I'm going to build another label here. We're going to build this one as a centerline label. So this previous label was a surface label that I built out. Now I'm going to build an alignment label. We'll just kind of use this basic X again. Actually, let's use something that's kind of, I know the curved one's pretty discrete. So I'll build out a new label. Create new here. We'll call it centerline. And as I build this, let's turn this out. This out of the box has that border on. I don't want that. And this new one has a whole lot of things in here that I'm not particularly interested in, especially northing and easting. I don't want the offset. But I do have the station value already in here. And I'll let that be. So this will be alignment 1. Copy that out. I'll use in a second. Now I'm going to create a reference text once again from another alignment. So very similar to what we had just done. Oh, probably wasn't accepting this today. Forgot to do one there. I'm going to really build this out quite similar to the way that the other piece was, but it is now off of my reference text, and I'm going to use that same. This raw station is the same code that I used for the other one. 100th precision, same as the other. Let's see here. Actually, I was a bit ahead of myself. First, we're going to go alignment name on here, and then we'll do station. Equals to keep formatting the same. And this should come in correctly. So now we have the centerline here. As I add this, and it's asked me for an alignment initially, I can pick the alignment and pick a point. And again, kind of the same deal here. It's come in only half of it labeled. It's asking me for that other component to use. As soon as I click on that, then I'll drag this off to the side. You should be able to see I have my centerline stationing here in this label. Just to show that it is working and that the 00 isn't some type of fluke, I'll go to the other end. We'll label it once again. And when I drag this out, you'll be able to see stack text that. It's correct, and I have a little bit of formatting here where I have a space that I didn't need, but you can see just how that label works with the reference text in there, so that you can have two alignments both labeled within the same label. Good. So one more trick here that I want to show off in this drawing before I switch over to my other drawing that I have. This is a trick that I became very fond of once I discovered it, because it's something that anybody doing something similar to residential design, or really anywhere where you're going to have a road that tees off of another proposed road, this trick will be for you. So first, I have already dropped in my west road profile. That's this road running here north-south on the west side of the project. So I have that designed already. So now I'm going to come in and create a profile for my road running along the north here, my north road running east-west. Just kind of skip through that. I'll draw something in quickly here. Be a design road certainly. I don't know where I'm going to tie in here. I'm not tying into the existing ground. I want to tie into that other profile. So I'll just kind of drop that in roughly, add in a couple other points here. Again, maybe I have a vertical curve. I won't spend much time on the design here. Just going to throw something in to get the idea of what's going on. So now how am I going to figure out the elevation? A common way that I see done would be to maybe hover with your cursor and try to get it such that it's displaying the elevation here in that little tooltip that pops down. But the way that I now prefer to do it is actually to drop in a Kogo point. This can be a temporary point, but in the point creation tool here, this third icon is an alignment icon. So it's Kogo points based upon things coming from an alignment. I'm going to use this station offset one actually. I'm just not going to really use the offset. And this is the alignment in the profile that I want to have it drop onto, but this is the one that I want to reference. So this is this is the alignment that I'll specify. And I'll specify that FG, the profile FG, for the elevation of this point that I dropped in. I can snap right to the end point there. It's right to the center line for this intersection. Command line is asking me to specify an offset, but 0 is the default, so I'll just press enter because I don't need one. Oftentimes I put in the description. I don't always label it anyways, but just so that I kind of know what's going on there. So there I have my Kogo point. Let me quickly split my screen here and get this one over to that profile. So this is the part that I would say is a little bit tricky to remember. Pulls out of these other things now that I have what I need. So the Kogo point is here, and I want to get that in my profile view here. I actually initiate that from the profile view, not the Kogo point itself. So I'll say project objects to profile view, grab my Kogo point, one found. Don't need to specify anything else. Oftentimes I don't want to label it. I just want something to snap to, so I'll just turn that off so it's not in my way. And it is the use object. Leave this as use object for that elevation. You can see that right at that spot, and that is, somewhere between 910 and 920, that 914 elevation. Look in here, just before 8, that does look like it would match correctly. So now this is a node snap, and I can snap this profile, and that's node, right to it. So, just another neat trick. As I say, that's something that I'm fond of, to make sure that I am matching at center if these roads were to be all crowns maintained at this intersection. Now, if I had a crown being warped out, maybe I would want to reference a Kogo point that's further back. Maybe I would try to grab an elevation from something else for that. But I have something that's profiled, right, an alignment and a profile right where I want to reference. That's how that one works. I move my profile around after the fact, let's say I came in and added in another PI, this point is more static here, so that's, I've certainly changed to be higher, so that is something to be careful of, that this point now is not still at that elevation. Okay, so I'd likely want to delete that out and then re-grab that elevation, and that would work. I'm going to keep things moving on here. We're going to move on to this other drawing that I have. So this drawing is just a little bit further along than the previous drawing. It's kind of the same site. I have the existing ground turned off here. I have a proposed ground built primarily from the contours, baked in the pond, and let everything else kind of just show. So again, nothing neat or spectacular as far as the surface goes. That's not really the point. Hopefully it's the labeling and the different other options that you'll see that you'll getting out of this. So this is my corridor surface, or FG. I'll rename that right now. That's how I'm using it in this drawing. One thing that is kind of a cool thing that maybe you don't use so often, but maybe you run into once in a while, is you have something buried underground, some type of large object, container, a box or something like that, that you want to show in a profile view. So I'm going to do initially here, open up a new drawing, draw in my object. So you can rough it in if you don't know its exact shape, or if you have an idea of what it is, maybe you have some dimensions to type in here. I'll just create this shape here. I'm going to rotate, hold shift, and pan. So I'm going to rotate here into a 3D view so I can show you that when I do an extrusion of this, I can extrude that polyline to be a solid. Let's say this is 10 feet tall, for example. Now I have a solid. And I'm going to bring this over to Civil 3D, and you'll see why in a minute. I'm actually going to want it to be a block. So I'm going to first turn this into a block, then specify my base point to be on the top of my block. I could pick another point, maybe a midpoint if I wanted to, but I'll specify the top. The object, so I'll just pick the solid here. And we'll call it underground object, perhaps. Good enough name. Now I'm going to do an AutoCAD Control-C. So I've just copy clip here. Okay. I'm not even going to save this drawing. Maybe you'd want to save it just in case this object were to move later on. But I'm not going to worry about that here. Do a Control-V. So I'm going to paste this in. I'll paste it somewhere here along that alignment here for the north row. Here I have my object. Maybe I want to move that just a little bit. Let's get the bigger section showing. Okay. So now I'm going to have my surface selected, and I can use this Move to Surface. And I have an option to move my block to this surface. And that's why I turned it into a block in the first place. So this is kind of a nice tool here under the contextual ribbon for the surfaces. I'm going to use that tool. It's going to ask me the object here. I'm going to pick that underground object, and there it's moved it now to that elevation. I'm going to explode this in a second, and the reasoning being, to get this into the profile, I'm going to want this to be a solid. So first I had a solid, I wanted it to be a block. Now I have a block, and I want it to be a solid. I'm just going to do a simple explode command, and now I have a solid. 3D solid. There it is. So back, I'll split my screen once again. So back in that same spot that we were earlier with the Kogo point, this same idea is going to work here for my solid. So I'm going to start off in the profile view, exact same command, project objects to profile view, And solids are another object that you can project. Specify it. Again, I don't want a label. I just want something to visually see. And it's got that value as you see it come in. Let me set this style real quick. It is important to have a style set up. All I actually want to see is going to be the solid. I can turn the rest of it off. Not that it'll really be displaying for this one anyways, but in profile view here. And I can, as you can see, I can do the same thing in section view. I'd want these sections checked for both one. This will show it as a crossing then. I'll click OK here. You see as the object comes in, it's just the crossing. And there it is, it's at the surface. Now you could drag it to the elevation if it's something buried deeper. And it's going to warn me about doing the grip change, being now no longer tied to the surface the way it had been. If I were to modify this, let's rotate this around. Let's get it to be such that we have a gap. You can see that it's split. So you can see that it really is looking at this object, and that is a dynamic link there. Again, not something that I would see necessarily being used terribly often, but something that can come into play in maybe the unique situation, in a unique occasion, and be used for that. This display, as far as how this looks, is based upon the fact that I have 2B wireframe selected. If I wanted to do maybe realistic, you'll see that this solid will update how this looks for the fill. Change that back to wireframe. That's how I typically want to see things, but just in case you're curious as to why it looks the way that it looks. Okay, let's get this back down to the 1. We have one more to show you here. We might run a little bit past 40, but hopefully it's all worth it. I'm going to go into my surfaces. Actually going to turn my FG surface off here so that I can turn my comparison surface on. Design. Symbol there, rebuild. Okay. So this being a comparison surface, it's down, close to 0. This last label style I'm going to build is going to be something that you could use for cut fill labels. Not necessarily something that you would use planned production, possibly, but something that may just as well be used for design purposes. I already have in here, under my settings, a couple of expressions built in. If I remember correctly, I need to tweak them slightly in this drawing. So let's see, the labels that I'm going to use are going to be spot elevation labels for a surface. You see here I have two labels, one for cut, one for fill. That's important. I'll go in here and say edit expression. Yeah, I have this ever so slightly off. Let's update these. One more 0 in there just because I know that comes in real big. But what it's saying is, so we have if, got this if statement from the option on the right hand side, if, and then we have surface elevation selected, so we drop those two pieces in. Pay attention to the parentheses here, so it's if, that'll drop in the front parenthesis for you, the surface elevation comes in brackets, and I select here, and actually for cut, I don't want the equals, so if the surface elevation is less than 0, then what? Then display at 0.01 height. Now, if it's greater than 0, that's going to draw it in at 0.0001 for height. So incredibly small. So in fact, this label, again, it's going to drop something in either way. But one of them is going to be something that we can see, and the other thing is just going to be, you'll be able to see it technically, but it'll be very small. That's how this works. So it's a little bit of a, maybe call it gimmicky, but it's something that I think is worth using, again, especially as a design tool. This is the same deal. So if the surface elevation now is greater than or equal to 0, is what we're going to be using for the fill. I'll show you where you plug these in a minute. Again, let me get these extra zeros in there so it doesn't come in wonky here once we try to apply it in a minute. Go into my surface, my spot elevation labels. So I have a cut fill label here that I've started already. You can go into edit here. What this is actually going to be, and actually I'm going to take this out and get this in here correctly. So I'm going to have only surface elevation in the contents. And again, it's going to label that really twice here. But for the text height is where under cut elevation, I'm going to use that cut here. And I have this as a style override to be color red. Red for cut. Under the fill elevation, I don't have that in there either. Again, all this is a surface elevation. This is why it is going to actually label that twice. And then I'm going to have my fill for the text height. Again, that expression was all about text height. And I've done an override for this to be green. So now when I add this in to my surface, you'll see there, if I zoom way in, it's got the 27.66 in red as well. But the green is the one that we can actually see well. You get into a spot of cut, and you can see there is doing just opposite. The green one is very small, and the red one is the one that is displaying. I'll show one more thing quickly here. Let me just get rid of these. And that's going to be, now spot elevation is something that you're likely to be familiar with. The spot elevation on grid is something that I often see kind of looked over. So I'm going to drop that same label in now. I'm going to click through this. So I'm going to specify the surface. It says specify a grid point. That's my lower left corner. Let's say I want to start a grid down here. Rotation, I'll say no rotation. Spacing, I want to label every maybe 50 feet, X and Y on the grid there. Specify my upper right. So maybe I want those to come all the way down here. Do I want to change how this grid looks? No, I don't. So there it is. It's brought all those labels in. Now I can quickly see numbers on a grid as to where the cut and where the fill is. Mostly fill, as you can see here, and in some spots rather deep amounts of fill. Let me open up that expression. I'll open it up just the cut one here one more time just so that you can see. It starts off with an if, so it's a conditional deal. So if the surface elevation is less than 0, draw at 0.01 text height. That's the red ones here. They're drawing at 0.01. If not, draw it in really small. I could add even another 0 in here, and it's just going to make it smaller. But, I mean, it's so tiny. I don't know if we really saw it even get smaller, but it certainly should have gotten even smaller there. That's how they work. That's what I have for today's webinar. If you have any other questions and you can still hear me, go ahead and type those in. I do have this one more PowerPoint slide here. This is our information, our YouTube channel. This webinar will end up on YouTube eventually. There's a lot of other good videos on there as well. So hopefully you enjoy watching those and are able to get some good information out of that. So far, no other questions are coming in. So I'm just going to go ahead and end this webinar now. Y'all have a good day.